The Book Thief, written by Markus Zusak, is one of the most famous books starring the Second World War that has ever been written. Although it doesn't star the battlefields or the soldiers, the death itself, it focuses mainly on how a huge war can actually affect people on so many levels, from a country to specific cities to towns to families and to individual people. So to start with a brief summary of the book, the book just introduces the characters at first. We see Liesel, obviously, our main character first. Her narrator, Death narrates this book. She goes, since Liesel's orphan, she goes to her adoptive family, like her new dad, Hans Huberman, who is a very kind, caring soul who's described as very gentle, and insists that Liesel calls him Papa. Her new mom is Rosa Huberman, who is not nearly as kind and caring. It's a lot more strict and forceful personality, but deep down cares about Liesel. Her new best friend is Rudy, who's a really energetic kid that Liesel quickly befriends and teaches her about her new surroundings, her new town. And eventually, after settling down into this new environment, we get to really see how cruel the war is. Her family starts to lose their jobs, especially since Hans Zimmerman is a painter, which is basically not even a career. A lot of the time, other problems start to pop up, like the fact that she's starting to lose a lot of loyalty towards Germany all in itself, because, Hitler is quite obviously a little shaky. But that's also bad for her now, because her new dad, Hans Zimmerman, already has a pretty bad history of not trusting the Nazis enough, which causes more problems to occur later. And when the Allies start bombing their town, everything just falls to pieces. Luckily, she finds herself refuge in stealing books. And this goes pretty well until one more person arrives, a person from Hans's past, which completely throws everything they knew into a new light. Now, on to the review. So for a book that stars World War II, something that's generally seen as a pretty negative topic with not a lot of bright moments in it, I would say that Book Thief is pretty awesome at emotional variation. Even though it's starring, death as a narrator and people dying all the time, bombs happening, lots of extremely unfortunate occurrences, it's pretty light and happy most of the time. The book does not like to shine darkness on literally everything, like, oh, this didn't go well, that didn't go well. It shows that Liesel still, like, it makes her feel like a real character, because she also experiences some lighter moments in her life as well, especially from her friend Rudy, from her dad, from her mom, and later from the mayor's wife. It's a bunch of circumstances that, even though are stuck in war, it still feels real, natural, and variation is just impressive. And now we go into some character development. And this is really where the Book Thief shines beyond basically every other book starring World War II. When we read regular books starring World War II, the stereotype is just, guns, war, people dying, Jewish suffering, Hitler generally being a mean person. Like, that's it. Whereas for the Book Thief, we see a much more real view of the war, not one from a soldier standpoint, not one from a high-ranking minister, but from a person who's just been thrown around, pushed around, bullied by the war itself. And every character gets some amount of character development, or has an extremely well-rounded personality, or both. For example, our main character, Liesel, has indescribable character development and it's just so real. When she arrives, she's this really nervous, she's shy, and she's kind of spiky, as in the way that she's trying to reject her surroundings. She doesn't like where she is. Her new dad, Hans Huberman, softens her up, and eventually she becomes a caring soul who genuinely wants to care about everyone in her town and how the war is going. Later, due to more unfortunate occurrences and her realizing how terrible Germany is actually being in this war, she becomes a fighting, forceful personality, a lot like her new mom, Rosa Huberman. And it just makes her feel like an actual character we get to spend time with throughout the years. The rest of the characters don't get nearly as much, obviously, but they still have significant changes. Hans Huberman has to deal with his past catching up to him, his deals earlier causing him to now have new impacts. Rudy, despite always being the energetic kid, we can see him also starting to develop some newer personality traits, some newer ideas, newer themes starring him specifically. And overall, I would just say that it's just amazing. The character development, everyone feels like an actual person that you could interact with, not just to be some person stuck in a huge world war. Okay, for ideas, topics, and themes, again, I can't overstate the significance of the Book Thief's main theme, which is that war affects everybody. War is not just far away from you. Like if you're a soldier, you like to fight, you could die. If you're back at home, you're just cheering on the soldiers. That's not how it works. From the Book Thief, we learned that a lot of like the main topic, the main idea that it's trying to show is that from Liesel's point of view, just a regular girl, an orphan, stuck in the middle of a war, is being pushed around by things thousands of miles away from where she is. Her life is impacted by the war just as much as any other soldier, because war is a huge event that no one really escapes in the end. We see this book from Death's point of view, which gives us a pretty interesting insight into many other cases that people would have never seen, like Death saying things that he's seeing, like how people are dying, where people are dying, and how people are suffering. We eventually also learned that another pretty decent, I would say, theme is that love is not just the only thing that exists. I know that people love, like, love is usually a central theme in many books, but in the Book Thief, it's a very, very like far off theme. There's no clear romance. There's basically no distinct romance in the book. Liesel and Rudy basically have a very platonic relationship that doesn't ever change. But we see how her adoptive father, Hans Huberman, and even her adoptive mother at times, Rose Huberman, are changing Liesel with every action. And the unexpected visitor that I mentioned her earlier, I don't want to spoil who it is, but the unexpected visitor also shows that love has a significant impact on people's lives, even if they're gone. So yeah, for ideas, topics, themes, I would say the Book Thief mainly stars the impact of war, but it also has a few themes of love from a family point of view, not the usual romance. Okay, for written quality, this is another point where the Book Thief really shines. It has such a likable writing style that I just wanted to keep reading, not just for the characters, not just for the plot, not just for the suspense, but mainly for the fact that it's just such an amazing, eloquent writing style, especially coming from the narrator being Death, is that it just makes you want to keep reading. It draws you in. Like two books I can mention that have, I think, decent ideas, topics, or themes that just get brought down by the written quality are The Inheritance Games and The Hate You Give. The Hate You Give has a very negative overall theme. It makes you, at least me, it makes me feel very sick when reading it. And The Inheritance Games is overly dramatic. Although its points are fun, it has a pretty interesting plot. It's just so serious all the time that you get bored reading it when you read it too much. The Book Thief doesn't have either of these issues. Despite being stuck in the Second World War, it has very lighthearted moments. It shows genuine appreciation for the things around Liesel, her town, her family, and it just makes the book so much more enjoyable than if it were just a bunch of serious content. Now onto the final score. For the Book Thief, out of 20, I would definitely give it a 19.5. It is an amazing book on almost every level. The plot is dynamic, it's interesting, it draws you in, except for the beginning, of course. The characters are all so developed, they have so distinct personalities that you just want to keep reading about their lives. They interact in extremely authentic human ways, not just forced conversations between them. The idea, topics, and themes covered in this are just amazing, especially the one about war affecting everyone. And really, the 0.5 I cut off was only because the introduction will not spoil, but it kind of ruins the other parts of the book when the beginning is too slow, too boring, too uninteresting. But besides the beginning, the first 50 pages, I would say, the introduction, the rest of the book is honestly amazing, and I really, really enjoyed reading it. So yeah, in the end, The Book Thief is a beautiful book. Its characters are just amazing. The plot is tense, and the message itself is superb. To finish off, I'm going to read one of my favorite quotes from the book. A translation: Himmel is equal to heaven. Whoever named Himmel Street certainly had a healthy sense of irony. Not that it was living hell, it wasn't. But it sure as hell wasn't heaven either.